I'm not sure. I might hear students arriving. I'm expecting to have both students here in person in Eureka, California, and also showing up online. So I've sent out many video links to tune in, and I'm hoping that some of our international students will make it. I was mentioning to Mike, I expect people from Colombia, Cyprus, Scotland, pretty much every continent. I don't have any penguins tuning in from Antarctica, but I intend for this to be a global experience. So one of the other things for people that are just tuning in, this is a projection of what's on my iPad screen. So you'll get a live experience of what I'm writing and drawing. And I recognize that first of all on your screen, it's mirror image, it's backwards, and also it might be a little bit hard to read the details. Do not be concerned because all of this is being recorded as an EduCreations, and all of this on our screen is being recorded as a video conference. So if there's something that you really wanted to refer to, the people that are expecting to show up need the address, so I'm just going to text that to them. Okay, so getting started. I already released the first lesson, and I know Lucy has been in the previous semester, and I know that Mike is on target and has accessed the information. So really, I did not want to make this just a rehashing of what's already recorded. Like, you can listen to the recorded version of Aurora at any time. This is much better for an interactive aspect of if you have questions or if there's further information that you would like about something in particular. So, all right, so first I'll be happy to open the floor if either of you guys have any questions or comments that you'd like to start with.
Well, I was going to call Ed, because Ed was supposed to be here tonight.
That's, well, Ed and Pauline are traveling in the same car, and they just she just texted me that she didn't know the address. And one challenge also is that the outer doors of this building lock at a certain time, so I hope that they'll be able to get here and get in without me having to pause the broadcast and stop and let them in. So we'll have to see, but I'll get going on everything. So, okay, starting with the lecture now. Basically, this is the beginning of energetic anatomy. So my expertise is really the flying rainbow lasagna. That's this right here. In order to even begin to talk about the flying rainbow lasagna and understand it, it's necessary to start with the idea of energetic anatomy and the chakras and the shape of the chakras. And okay, so first of all, there's a lot of New Age artwork. Here we go, I'm going to start my recording on here also. There's a lot of New Age artwork that depicts the chakras as just kind of amorphous blobs or blobs of light, and that's, gives a very general impression, but is not totally accurate to what they actually are shaped like and what they are actually doing on an energetic anatomical level. So we're talking here about energy as it's flowing. When you look at this shape over here that I have, this is a big giant glass piece that I made that unfortunately broke and died 1,000 deaths. But don't make me cry. This piece over here depicts the chakras and the proportions and the colors. So first of all, you, me, each one of us, we are emanations of light from the nearest star. Our star is named Sol. That's why we live in the solar system. As little tiny fragments or appendages of the sun, we are calibrated to the light from the sun. That's where I got these calibrations. Oh, so let me also, I was expecting to have more newcomers. I'm currently speaking to an audience of people who already know me. But for anyone who's tuning in, who's accessing this archive, or who doesn't know me yet, I'm Aurora. I'm a galactic walk-in. So that means I came into this human form when this human body was aged 27 in 2001. That's a whole story in and of itself. I do have it recorded as a series of videos that you can access. I bring it up because this has everything to do with the veracity of my source of information. That I draw and write these images and I record these lessons based upon my direct perception. So really, we each contain all the information that we possibly need to know inside of us, not only on a cellular level, but on an energetic level. And when I'm really talking about the chakras, I'm talking about non-physical energy here. So we each contain all of these patterns all inside of us. And hold on one moment. When one begins to activate one's third eye, this aperture up here, really, oh, and I'll draw this on the screen over here. That's this aperture right over here at the top of the face. When you begin to access your third eye, you can learn about whatever you wish to learn about merely by attenuating. And attenuating means stretching out, reaching forward, and grasping in wonderment, or asking, I'd like to know more about that thing. So really, my information that I have here comes from direct perception through my third eye and really looking at my own anatomy. So one other thing I wanted to bring up is that I am not, or not currently, or don't define myself as an intuitive healer or a medical intuitive. If a person asked me, like, tell me about my aches and pains or diagnose something, like, that's not actually my role. My role is more of an energetic anatomist, where I am perceiving and accurately recording this energetic anatomy and then translating it into a format that other beings can perceive. So part of this is also my mission of why I'm here, and also part of this has to do with, this is backstory. Learning about all of these basic shapes and the basic anatomy is really beginning at the foundation. And that's why I like to say this is more than just a 15-minute conversation. This is really a many semesters long of information that it's necessary to understand first on a basic level and then work your way up to it. So, okay, chakras. These chakras, what are they made of? What are these balls of energy made of? They are made of energy whirling and twirling amidst itself. So, all right, now let's change these things around a little bit here so that you can see them a little bit better. And I'm going to enlarge this so you can see it a little bit better in the middle. This shape, this central shape over here that I draw over and over in all of my artwork, this is actually a flattened, simplified, two-dimensional version of something that is actually fourth dimensional. So that means that it has length, shape, width, height, and movement. I made a sculpture of it. Dun, dun. This is pretty rough and ready. It actually is just greenware. This, let's make it in a way, so there you go, you can see it a little bit better. This I made more than 10 years ago, and it's just a little carved piece of unfired clay, but a picture's worth 1,000 words and a sculpture is worth more than 1,000 words, because this can show you what this is actually showing you in the, here you go, in the flattened version. So this is created by the shape of 4 vortexes, and then there are 2 implied vortexes. So imagine that we're starting off with the stretchy fabric of the universe, the stretchy beach ball fabric of the universe. All right, so I do a little bit of intersection with science. I don't call myself a scientist. I feel that science is a very limited belief system and a limited filter through which to perceive the world, because science doesn't have it all together in perceiving consciousness or recognizing consciousness and that effect on reality. And science as it currently stands does not recognize unconditional love as a force in the universe in much the same way that gravity is a force, or light is a phenomenon. So these are ways in which science is having to play catch up to what is perceived on a purely energetic level. And there are some really good teachers, like Dan Winter is excellent. He was trained as an electrical engineer and then began to open up his third eye aperture and perceive all sorts of toroidal energy forms. And he created a machine that actually can measure the coherence of the heart and the electrical fields, electromagnetic fields that are created by the heart as it's pumping. And the whole point is His work is an excellent bridge between science that doesn't recognize the tone of unconditional love and science that soon will recognize and embrace the tone of unconditional love. So we're starting off also with the science convention, the idea of the Big Bang, the idea that all of the cosmology, the beginning of the universe, started from a little tiny point, the source, the center of everything. And when I'm talking about that, that is the same exact center that is, now we're looking on the board here, the middle of this section, I just did that. Here, the middle of this section, every single one of these on this person, and right over here. This is the idea that we started off from a point that is unbelievably concentrated, that contains all matter, all energy, and all possibilities, and all consciousness in the universe, and that everything expanded outward from there. So science recognizes and says, oh, the universe is like an expanding bubble of time, and the outer membrane is like a time horizon that is the current moment. And the interior of the bubble is all of the moments that have already been experienced. And of course, science doesn't recognize anything outside of the membrane of the bubble, which is very interesting. When I'm using this description now, I'm talking about how we create the shape of the chakras. So now imagine that you've taken that stretchy bubble of expanding time horizon and take giant fingers in another universe and dimpled it like this, and two more giant fingers up from the top and up from the bottom. And then that gives you the implied vortices that are in here. So here's an implied finger in here and another implied finger in here. This is the basic shape. This is the basic explanation of how this shape is formed. In the advanced level, I go into exactly how this shape is formed. As energy is whirling and swirling down, enters the source, it actually goes through every level of the chakras and then exits the wormhole and begins to swirl back around again. This is you on a multidimensional level. So I also brought this wonderful rough and ready sculpture, which has everything to do with the images that you see behind me on the wall. This, I know it's made of child's putty, but it shows very well the negative space that is created by the whirling and swirling vortexes. So here, in here, 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 and here, you can see those shadowed areas. That's the negative space. Well, that would be analogous to the first four boom, 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 boom of this shape. But you can see that this shape is made up of 8. Like I got 1, 2, 3, 4 there, and then, oops, the ones that I'm touching with my fingers that you can't see. 1, 2, 3, 4. But wait, so this is 8, but this over here, you only see 4, and I'm drawing it now for the people at home. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's that all about? Because when you're looking at this painting, this is a cross section. People are downstairs and they want me to come and let them in.
I'm patient.
You're too patient. Students are 20 minutes late for class and they want me to run down and let them in. Okay. Well, give me a moment, if you don't mind. I'm going to pause the record, run down, let people in.
No problem.
Thank you for understanding.
I'm working on the.
Thank you for your patience.
Guess what? It's woman's birthday party tonight.
Whose birthday tonight?
Man,
Say it one more time. It's breaking up.
well, now.
Oh, how nice. Send him happy birthday for me if you show up there. That's wonderful. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. Talking about higher dimensional concepts of the universe here. Basically, your non-physical presence is made of a bunch of timelines. And this is what your timelines are shaped like. This is what the negative space of those timelines are shaped like. Literally, this is another world that you can't enter or get into, but is part of and superimposed on the world that you're currently experiencing. This world, right here, represented by this shape, comprises every single possibility of what you are and what you could possibly be. Now, let's go to a nice fresh page here so that I can draw my traditional time graph, beginning down here at the bottom and moving forward with all these timelines that grow forward. So I know that both of you are familiar with this, and I'm drawing a super fast sketch of it. This line right here represents a membrane. It represents energy that is actually flowing in this direction. That is analogous to this curved surface in here. I'm going to hold it closer to the camera so you can see. This membrane out here, that is made of the flowing membrane of death. It is made of the final moments of each one of these versions of you. Each one of these lines over here that I'm drawing, each one of these is a version of you. And it has everything to do with ascended mastership and becoming your full potential, or let's say living in alignment with the version of yourself that is connected completely to the divine. So each one of us, when we come here, we accrete. This is the way that we form. This is the way that life forms in the womb. You begin as consciousness, like my hand is consciousness, and you stick your consciousness down into lower levels of density. And then if you have ever seen a cotton candy machine, accretion works a lot like a cotton candy machine, where with cotton candy, you take a stick and you whirl it around, and it accretes cotton candy, builds up. Well, with consciousness, or with your light body, you accrete consciousness or light. So first, there is the basic framework that goes down into the denser dimension. And let's say if I were drawing that as like, this is a stick figure of you going down into a dimension, you don't look like a person yet. You look like a bear. You don't even look like a neurology yet. You look like a matrix. And then on top of that, layers begin to form. And first, the higher vibrational layers form. So I'm starting with violet. This is like how a person forms in the womb. And then the next layer forms on top of that. You go all the way through every color of the rainbow until finally you begin, and I know I skipped all the other colors, but I'm now finally just going out to this layer, which is finally your physical form and your physical body. People here in this time and place are programmed for death. They're programmed to think, I stuck my hand down, I accreted a bunch of matter, I utilized that matter in an organized form for between 0 and 100 years, and then poof, I'm all supposed to go away. That's the programming down here. But according to what I draw all the time, when I draw these little timelines, there's always one timeline that exits the wormhole. There's always that one timeline that makes it out of the time vortex. And that timeline is the one where you have achieved ascended masterhood. It's basically like saying that you have achieved a level of consciousness coherence that allows you to stay together as a format once you drop your physical body. So it's like saying, now I'm going to erase. If I erase this red line, how come erasing isn't working? If I erase this red line around the person, if the person is coherent, the person stays. You don't have to die. And when we talk about coherent, what am I talking about? Lasers are coherent light. Coherent means that the waves are lined up together. Here's waves, all right? And light is coherent when all of the up waves match up with all of the down waves. That's coherent light. See how that red lines up with all that? Now let's draw yellow. Look, yellow is also lining up with all that. All of the peaks and all of the troughs fit together. It is coherent. So when I was speaking earlier about Dan Winter and the idea of coherency of your heart, oh good, let's change this around now so that you can see a little bit better. Here we go, coherency of your heart. We're talking about your heart chakra. And let's change to green. Right over here. That basically, if you have strong unconditional love, the waves of your heart chakra are highly coherent. So that they all of the ups and all the downs match, and that creates a very strong field. So this is another idea. If you have a single wave, you have a wave. If you have many waves together, you have a field. And that is what, boom, boom, this is. This is your field. I like this picture because it's accurate in showing the size of the field around the person. Your energy field literally extends even further out to the sides of you than the arms when you extend your arms out to the side. So if this person extended his arms, they might be about that far out to their sides, but you can see that their energy field encompasses something much, much larger. And I'll even tell you this. You can expand your energy field and have it encompass 90 miles, 100 miles. It can encompass a whole world. It can encompass a whole planet. And eventually it can encompass time and space in a non-linear reality. So please don't be limited by the drawings that I have created. Like, I try to be very accurate in these drawings, and still sometimes I'm using conventions in order to get my ideas across. And sometimes, like this drawing that I'm using right now is very accurate in some ways and not very accurate in other ways. So the size of the overall energy field is accurate, but when you look at it, you look and you see all of the chakras coincide in one central point in the center of this person. And I'm going to draw it here for people who are at home who can see. All of the chakras coincide in that one point. That's actually not technically accurate. What is more accurate is this from a later drawing, where you can see on the wall, the chakras line up at different points along the spine, or aligned on the front and back of the body, kind of like buttons on a shirt. That's the way that chakras are really aligned. So this painting, more accurate in terms of the alignment, but not as accurate in terms of the size of the red chakra, because in order to fit it into the overarching pattern of the painting, I made the red chakra only this big. And look, that hardly even encompasses, the entire span of the person's arms. So, I used a little bit of artistic license in that image in order to fit it into the painting. So it's more accurate in some ways, less accurate in some ways. Back to this other bigger one. And I did this one several years before I did the other more accurate picture. This one is very accurate in terms of showing the orientation of the chakras. So first of all, boom, I'm drawing pictures before I even talk about it. Up here, above the person's head, we see a little vortex, basically where the quote-unquote halo appears in a lot of traditional iconography. And there's a reason why halos exist in traditional iconography. It is referring to the crown chakra, and that's our connection to the divine. So in the recorded lesson, I went through the layers of the spectrum and what each chakra represents, what each color of the chakras represents and corresponds to a layer of consciousness. Hold on one moment, because meeting will end in 10 minutes, but don't be concerned if the meeting ends. I will simply send out another email immediately, and you can hop right back on and we'll finish the remainder of class. Yes, so brief break in 10 minutes when this session comes to a close, and then we'll start it up again. The orientation of the chakras. So, okay, lots of New Age artwork. People show chakras like blobs of light, kind of colored like the rainbow. Beyond blobs of light, they're actually shaped like 4 vortexes together, right? And they have a very specific proportion. So this is another aspect of this painting that is very accurate and very good. Red is always the largest and longest wavelength. And when we talk about wavelength and frequency, I did this in the recorded lesson also. These are terms that were created by science, but that I use in order to have a common vocabulary. And what we're really talking about is an energy that is beyond merely the electromagnetic spectrum and beyond merely what might be recognized by science, but we can still use some of these terms because we're talking about waves, and it's still a phenomenon that exists in waves. We're talking about waves and fields or force fields. So orange is always going to be half of the size of the red wavelength, and yellow similarly 1/3, and green 1/4, light blue 1/5. This is dark blue up here. That's always going to be 1/6 the size of the red chakra, and the little helicopter up here, your little halo, is always going to be 1/7 of the size of the red chakra. And in terms of orientation on the body, if you look at this overall picture, you'll see we have this red chakra is oriented vertically, right? You can see that on the screen over there. And the little halo chakra is also oriented vertically, right? But all the rest of the chakras on this person are oriented horizontally. Look there, there's the orange one, yellow, green, blue. And the way that, this is a static picture, but the way that these are actually moving is the side ones are swirling and swirling around like this, and they're also swinging around like this. So this is all created by just the movement of energy itself, very much in the same way that a waterfall is created just by the movement of water. And when water moves, it creates a meniscus. That is, the surface tension creates a slight thickening on the surface, which is like a lens. Or think about a tornado, which is merely the formation of air at a different density. And really what we're talking about here is you as a being of density floating within a realm of slightly less dense things. And that is what gives you the sense of being a discrete individual beyond your surroundings and your experiences. In the advanced material, I get more into the idea of what's happening with many chakras together and many timelines together and how the timelines begin to interact. But for right now, I'm just giving the beginning overview of what this is. It's like saying you have a body, and your body has skin and teeth and a circulatory system, and they all act together to give you your daily experience and keep your world going. Well, that is what I am saying with this very first lesson. Before I can even begin to tell you about the flying rainbow lasagna, and this is special because this is what you can do with this. This is what you can do with your energy field. Your energy field is shaped like this. That is also the shape of Earth's magnetosphere. It is also the shape of the sun's heliosphere. It is also the shape of the galaxy. It is one of the basic shapes of energy as it flows in the universe. It is the torus or the donut. And I do like to make jokes and say, donut, like Homer Simpson. But really, we're talking about a higher dimensional concept. And humanity and science are just starting to understand the significance of the torus or the donut. And once you embrace the donut, then you can begin to place it into a higher dimensional state and achieve the flying rainbow lasagna. So I'm telling you this so that you take heart and stick with the course of study and keep going on this journey of consciousness, because you can't eat the entire elephant at once. It is necessary to eat it in sensible increments, and that eventually it all does add up to lasagna, and you'll get the significance of this shape. So both things are probably going to need to take a brief pause. In the next segment, I'm going to talk about the evolutionary biology of your brain and neurology and how that relates to the first 3 or 4 chakras, and then also where we're headed and reclaiming the higher consciousness, connection to higher self, and really how in the coming future we will not experience a false distinction between quote unquote the higher self and quote unquote the lower self or the ego tendency. So give me 1 minute. I'm going to pause everything. I'm going to send out a new email on the video conference. Stay at your computer. Hook back up in 1 minute.